welcoming me and for allowing me to be here with your group. It's just such an honor. So I'll start with some radical remission research. I really want to share with you this research because I'm very passionate about it. So if I may, I'll share my slides. And just let me get my screen all set up here because I still want to be able to see you so that we can have a conversation. So if you have some questions, don't hesitate. I do have some material I'd like to get through and then leave time at the end for questions. But if there is something you really want to know right away, just definitely let me know. All right. So, I need to put this in slide mode for you. There we go. So I'm going to be talking about the Radical Remission Project. I am a co-director of the project, and Dr. Kelly Turner did the research and wrote the books, and I am a co-director for her now, and happy to carry on the work that she has done to make sure that as many people as possible know about this. So, there's me, as I said, co-director of the Radical Remission Project, also a co-founder of Health Navigators, which is a virtual online cancer wellness center. So the Radical Remission gave me my training. I'm also a national board certified health and wellness coach, then became certified as a Radical Remission coach. And I love to offer the workshops and different classes and other events, some related to radical remission and some not. And so I have the Health Navigators, and I'll tell you more about that at the end as well. And this is my partner, Liz Curran. Liz is also a co-director for the Radical Remission Project and the co-founder of the Health Navigators. And it's so exciting to do this work with her. Now you'll see that Liz is a pre-viver. So I am a radical remission survivor, just like Valencia is. And I have a story to tell you that will be inspiring. Liz's story is definitely different than mine. And she is dealing with, a family history and different things going on. So she considers herself to be a pre-viver and wants to prevent anything from happening. So she uses the same healing factors to help her do that. And there we go. I'm trying to make sure again that I can see you guys, just rearranging things here. And maybe, Kathy, you can help me just keep an eye on things if people have a question or something or trying to get my attention. If you don't mind bringing that to my attention, I'd appreciate it.
Absolutely.
Thanks. All right. So I'm going to start with radical remission. And I imagine many of you have read the book. Many people who have a diagnosis have. So hopefully you've either read Radical Remission or Radical Hope or heard about it. So I'll just be brief on this background slide. So Kelly Turner, PhD, is the founder, the author, the researcher on all of this. Did someone have a question? So she did the research about 15 years ago now. The book came out 10 years ago. The first book, Radical Remission, was a New York Times bestseller. And she's done that 15 years of research on over 1,500 cases of spontaneous remissions. That's what the medical community calls them, is spontaneous remissions. But once Dr. Turner did this research, she found that there wasn't anything spontaneous about it, that people worked really hard to get into remission. So she came up with the term radical remission. And in that research, she's always adamant to say this isn't anything she made up or anything she discovered. It's what the radical remission survivors that she spoke to and their healers and practitioners told her about. It was uncovering these common factors that all 1,500 plus of these people utilized to overcome a dire prognosis. And the book is based on that research that she did. And that, again, came out 10 years ago. And then in 2020, she wrote the follow-up book, Radical Hope. Radical Hope brought in a third category of people. The first book talked about people that took a completely alternative approach, or people who used conventional, but it failed them sent them home on hospice, but they found remission anyway. And in the new book, Radical Hope, there's that category of people that use an integrative approach. So they're using the best of conventional and the best of the complementary and alternative modalities that are out there. So, excuse me. All that research led her to do her dissertation at the University of California, Berkeley, and then became that best-selling book. And she is always also adamant to say that she is not against conventional treatment. She just knew there was something to learn from these people who had overcome without using conventional or after conventional failed, or those of us that are using both. And I'm really grateful for her for doing that research and finding this information, because I feel like these 10 lifestyle factors have made a really big difference in my metastatic breast cancer journey. So Dr. Turner's not against conventional. I'm not against conventional. It's just what we learned from those people who initially were not using it or after it failed. It's also important that you keep in mind that this research, these 10 healing factors, are really just a hypothesis only. There is no guarantee, no promise that following these healing factors is going to help you heal from cancer or any other ailment. However, what we do know is that there are separate scientific studies that have shown that these 10 healing factors significantly strengthen your immune system. And that's always a good idea when you're trying to overcome cancer or another diagnosis. Sorry, I keep losing my little button there. Here we go. So these are the 10 healing factors, and there's no order of importance. We don't know yet which of any of these factors are more important than the others. We do know that all of these factors can be used safely in conjunction with conventional medicine. It can help you to reduce side effects of the cancer treatment, to improve your immune function, and in my partner's case, it can help prevent a cancer diagnosis as well. And in the new book, Radical Hope, there are stories of people that have overcome things other than cancer. So folks have found these healing factors to be really helpful when it comes to overcoming ALS, MS, autoimmune disorders, etc. So they can't hurt, they can only help. If everyone could put themselves on mute, there seems to be a little background noise coming in. So it would be easier, I think, would be less disruptive. I keep thinking somebody's maybe trying to ask a question.
Hi, Sharon. I'm trying to mute you, but it doesn't seem to be working. Would you be able to mute yourself? Can she hear me?
Okay, we'll keep going. Hopefully it will work. So I'm going to go through these factors. So I just moved forward to empowering yourself. Empowering yourself is, and it was formerly called taking control of your health in the first book, but all of the radical remission survivors that Dr. Turner interviewed and their healers and practitioners all said that it was really important to move from being a passive to being an active participant in your health, right? So if you're, the survivors all said, so important to become active, to become the CEO of their health. They said that they went from being the good patients, right? Those that follow doctor's orders, nod their heads, do everything they're told, to becoming the sort of annoying patients. The type of patient that asked lots of questions, did their own research, educated themselves, and really advocated for what felt right for them. And yeah, sometimes some of our doctors might think that's a little annoying when they want you to just do what they say and move on, because of course they have so little time to spend with us in those appointments. But it's really important in your healing that you become empowered, that you advocate for yourself. So if you think of a boardroom, right, the CEO of the company sits at the head of the boardroom table and the board is lined up along each side of that table. You need to be the CEO of your health. You need to sit at the head of that table and use your healers, practitioners, doctors, alternative practitioners, anyone that's on your healing team sits at your boardroom table. So imagine yourself at the head of that table. You're listening to all of those experts. You're hearing what they're recommending to you. You're not refusing to see them or hear them. You're simply treating them as the expert they are in their field of expertise, but not as an expert on you. Nobody can know you as well as you can. So it's really important to be empowered and to take that active role in your health. And there is independent research studies for each of these that supports why that's important. And when we do the workshop, we go into much more detail about each of these factors and the research that supports it. Tonight, I'm just going to go through each of these a little bit quickly. So the next one is increasing social support. Here's where the radical remission survivors described receiving love and support as a different skill than giving love and support. And we're usually pretty good at giving and maybe not so good at receiving, because we have this perception that we need to be strong, that we need to be independent, that we can do it ourselves, and that it would be a sign of weakness if we asked for help or needed help. Well, I'm here to tell you that it's really important that you ask for and receive all the love and support that you can get. It is going to make a difference for your immune system. So when you're sick with a cold or something, your loved ones are often there to help you, right? They might make you soup, or they're going to give you an extra blanket or bring you another glass of water. They're there in practical ways to support you when you're ill. However, researchers have found that our loved ones also help our bodies in much more sophisticated ways. So when we are surrounded by our loved ones, and this does include our pets, that feeling of love that we get releases a flood of very potent hormones into our bloodstream. And that feels good, and it strengthens our immune system significantly. So learn to accept the help that is offered, and maybe even take it to the next level and learn to ask for help, because it's not a sign of weakness. It is a sign of strength and will help you overcome. Next one is releasing suppressed emotion. So this particular lifestyle factor is really about letting go of emotions. So we want to feel our emotions. All of our emotions are important. They're messengers. They have something to tell us. Those emotions that we think of as negative or bad emotions, like anger, fear, sadness, they're just emotions. They're low vibration emotions, but they are still a messenger. They're just there to tell you something. So listening to all of your emotions, feeling them fully, processing them, and then letting them go is really important. So this waterfall is to remind us of the waterfall analogy, where we allow our emotions to come in and wash over us and just keep right on going. We don't need to stop and hold on to those emotions. We don't need to stuff those emotions. In fact, when we stuff our emotions or refuse to feel them, we may be causing a blockage in the body, mind, and spirit level of our body. And the practitioners and healers that Dr. Turner interviewed all said that the blockage, that illness represents a blockage, rather, and that blockage can be where disease starts. So in contrast, movement or freedom or the flow of emotions and life force energy through our bodies is really an important concept. And so this is about the stress we hang on to, the anger we don't voice, etc. And it's about learning to embrace all those emotions and let them flow freely. Next factor of the 10 is spiritual connection. And this is about deepening your spiritual connection. All of the radical remission survivors and the healers described the spiritual connection practice as a physical and an emotional experience, not just a set of beliefs. So it was something they could feel in their bodies. It's not necessarily about religion, although for some of us, religion is part of our spiritual life. For others, you can have a spiritual life without religion. It's really more about connecting in a meaningful way to something bigger than yourself, something that perhaps makes you stop and you're filled with awe or you're filled with gratitude. And it can happen through nature, through art, through music. Any activity that puts you in that state of flow or awe is really a good place to start deepening and exploring more of that spiritual connection. The next factor is about increasing our positive emotions. So this is about when we feel happy and loving and those emotions are flowing through us, our physical bodies are once again flooded with those immune boosting hormones, with cancer fighting immune cells. And all of the radical remission survivors work diligently to find ways to increase their love, joy, and happiness that they felt. They knew that this was an important one, and they all said that it was kind of like a muscle that needed a daily workout. So if you aren't feeling particularly happy and joyful on any given day, and certainly you're human, we're all going to have days like that. But even if you could just take 5 minutes a day to do something that makes you happy, something that brings a smile to your face, something that makes you laugh. And you can certainly ask your friends and family to help boost your positive emotions by sending you things they know you'll find funny or enjoyable or that will bring a smile. So add that to your list of asks of people. It'll be an easier one than some of the bigger things. And it's going to give your immune system a big boost anytime you laugh or smile. The next factor in the research was about exercise. And this one actually didn't show up in the first book in the research that was originally done, because if you remember, I said those people were mostly sent home on hospice and there was nothing more the conventional medicine could do for them. So they were not in the best of shape. And so they weren't doing what they thought of as traditional exercise. But what Dr. Turner did, because she realized how important exercise and movement is for preventing and overcoming treatment and preventing a recurrence, she went back and wondered why it didn't come up. And when she looked back at those interviews and talked to some of those survivors, what she found was that every single one of those survivors was moving their body as much as they could when they could. So they weren't back in the gym lifting weights and running marathons and doing what they may have previously done that was considered exercise, but they were moving their body. So this is all about just increasing the amount of movement and exercise you do each day by just a little bit. And if you can barely get out of bed right now, well, just get out of bed. And then the next day or week, maybe you can walk to your living room. And maybe the following week, you can walk to the porch or the mailbox, or, a few weeks later out and around the block. So it's taking those small steps to add a little bit more each day. And any kind of physical movement counts. So gardening, walking, doing physical therapy, and things of that nature that are enjoyable and fun count as the exercise and movement. And we do know from independent studies that exercise is essential to our long-term remission. So it's important that you just try to do a little bit more each day. All right, and here's a big one for folks: radically changing your diet. Many of us feel like, okay, I can get a hold of my nutrition. It's something tangible. I know I can control this. But it can also be very difficult to make big changes. And there's so much information out there about what you should be doing. And there's conflicting information about what you should be doing when it comes to nutrition. Unfortunately, Dr. Turner's research did not land on one diet everybody should do because it's very individual. We are bio-individual. We need bio-individual solutions, right? We cannot all eat the exact same diet and get the same results. So the radical remission survivors were doing a lot of different types of diet and nutrition plans. Some were vegan, some were doing ketogenic diets, some were plant-based, some were macrobiotic, some were vegetarian, some were pescatarian. But here's the thing that Dr. Turner found. The overall sweeping trends for all of those radical remission survivors, all 1,500 plus, were that they greatly reduced or sometimes even eliminated meat, wheat, meaning gluten and refined grains, sweets, the refined sugars, and dairy products. They added in lots of vegetables, more fruits and veggies, and also pure filtered water was also a very good thing to do to hydrate. But those veggies and fruits should be making up 50% of every plate and every snack, right? So if you just look at whatever size plate you have, divide it in half and fill it up with veggies and fruits. Stick to the veggies as much as you can, but definitely enjoy the fruits. It looks like there's a question. Did you research fasting while on chemo? Is something I'd like to know. Dr. Turner's research did not uncover fasting on chemotherapy, but many of the radical remission survivors were doing that. And so there's a lot of different modalities, just like there's different diets and nutrition that come into play for people. These 10 lifestyle changes were things every single one of them did. And many of them that do change their nutrition, especially on the ketogenic diet, will utilize intermittent fasting to help heal their body. And we know that intermittent fasting and calorie restriction can be very beneficial to anyone, but also on a cancer journey. And there is still some conflicting information about whether or not to do fasting during chemo. That's where you need to land on the expert you feel strongly about and go with what they recommend for you. What about cause people, some said don't eat fruits, it becomes sugar. So sugar, fruit, there's lots of foods that are going to turn to sugar in the body. You want to stay away from the simple carbs and go with the complex carbs, right? And even some fruits are going to produce more sugar in the body. But it's better to eat veggies and fruits than it is to eat cupcakes and ding dongs. So be sure that you are letting yourself eat things that are going to be nutritionally dense. And when you eat fruit, you're getting the fiber. When you drink fruit juice or you use refined sugars, it's just a direct line of sugar to feeding those naughty little cancer cells. So I personally cut out all fruit when I first started, and it became really, really hard to eat nothing but vegetables. And I lost a lot more weight than I should have. And when I found an integrative oncologist to help me get back on track, I gained back the right amount of weight and have kept my glycemic levels in check and in an appropriate place. So there's a lot of information about diet. Definitely utilize your intuition, which is the next factor I'm going to tell you about. It can help you, your intuition can help you decide what's right for you. What do you need? So you, again, are an individual. You shouldn't be doing what somebody else did just because they did it. Even if they have the exact same cancer diagnosis as you may still need something different because there's a lot of variables involved. Now, when it comes to following your intuition, we know intuition is part of the human body. Research has told us that we really do have an intuition. And we, however, don't really utilize our intuition as much. We're not taught how to use it. We're not supported in, talking about our intuition. It's becoming a little bit more common, but we need to remember that our brain has intuitive neurons, as does our gut. And recent research has shown us that there are over 100 million neurons in our gut that are very similar to the ones in our brain that act independently of the ones in the brain. So when you say, I got a bad feeling in my gut, there's probably some truth to it. And by sitting quietly and tapping into your intuition, asking your intuition questions, trusting the answers that you get, you start to develop this relationship with your intuition. So it shows up more for you and it's going to help you more. And I always recommend track it, write it down. What was that intuitive hit that you got? And a few days later, check back in. How'd that turn out? That can help you learn to trust your intuition more. And your intuition can be really essential for you in making all these decisions you need to make on your healing journey. The next factor that I want to mention is taking herbs and supplements. Now, this is the one factor that we recommend very strongly that you get a practitioner's guidance on. Again, no magic bullet, very individual. It's based on what your particular body needs. It's based on what type of diagnosis you have, your intake of food, your exercise levels, et cetera, et cetera. And what we do know from the radical remission survivors was that they were all using herbs and supplements, and they all mentioned these three categories. Number one was immune boosting supplements, and that's what all of these 10 lifestyle factors are about, boosting the immune system. So immune boosting supplements may be necessary. Detoxifying supplements may also be necessary if you've had the testing done and you know that you need to detoxify from heavy metals or parasites or viruses, etc. And then the third category of supplements they all took were those that helped improve the digestion and therefore the absorption of nutrients. So that's really important that you work with a licensed practitioner that can do some testing and assessment. Trying to guess, doing some things you've heard other people do, that might not be the right thing for you. And you could be wasting your money on things that you don't need. So strongly encourage you to find a practitioner that can really help you figure that out. Licensed practitioners can be found through a couple of different organizations. I don't have them right off the top of my head here, but I can certainly send those links to find them. So you can find naturopaths, you can find functional medicine doctors, you can find herbalists, you can find acupuncturists or Chinese medicine doctors that also do herbs and supplements. There's a lot of different practitioners out there that can help you with this. And I'll share those with Kathy, who can send those links out to you guys later. All right, this is the last of the 10 healing factors that I want to talk about because I do want to have time to chat with you. This is about having strong reasons for living. And it's different than fighting off death, okay? So one elicits joy while the other elicits fear. And we want to stay in that joyful state. If we're in a state of fear or anxiety or depression, constant sadness, right? That's not going to be boosting our immune system. We're not getting that release of good hormones. Not to say that you won't experience all of those things at some point. We are human. Again, we're all going to experience some of those low vibration emotions. It's just, let's try to make sure we do also experience the high vibration emotions that bring us happiness. And when it comes to strong reasons for living, what Dr. Turner's research found was that while it was true the radical remission survivors did not want to die, it was really more because they really wanted to keep living. And it's a subtle but a very important difference. So it's not so much about fear of dying as it is about the zest for living, right? So the survivors and their healers and practitioners all emphasized that a person's desire to live has to come from the deepest core of his or her being. And it's really an unquestioning, unwavering conviction that, yes, I want to live and I have things I still want to do. And some people have grandchildren or children, or maybe want to finish writing that book you started or finish painting that painting or whatever it is that's important to you in your life. Maybe your volunteer work is important to you. There's just so many different things that can give you a strong reason for remaining on Earth. All right. Any questions about those factors real quick before I tell you my story? I'm just looking in the chat too, if there's anything.
Yeah, there's
Yeah,
one
you
new
have several
question
in
in
the
the chat.
chat.
What have I got, Kathy? What's the question?
I think you answered the licensed practitioner question. How do you find
Uh,
one? Do you advise to look at videos about cancer and keep reading about it because that is what she's going through? She sees one of those negative videos for statistics and has
yeah,
fear.
yeah. Yeah, I definitely encourage people to avoid those negative statistics, avoid the prognosis. So Deepak Chopra said this, believe the diagnosis, not the prognosis. Nobody knows when you're going to leave this earth, right? Nobody knows how or when. And doctors are making a somewhat educated guess, but it's still just a guess. And they're not God. They don't have a crystal ball. They don't know. And when you hear those statistics, you tend to like internalize them. And then you think, oh, that's me. I like to encourage people, once you hear about radical remission and lifestyle changes that you can do to help yourself, you have now become an outlier. You are not a statistic because you're already doing more than those people that are listed in the statistics were doing. And that's what's going to help you. So, you've got to be careful about what you take in. I don't even watch the news anymore. It's just so depressing and so disheartening, and it just doesn't do me any good. So while I'm not completely oblivious to what's going on in the world, I don't take it in on a regular basis because I know that's not good for my health. So definitely encourage you to be careful about what you watch, what you take in, what Facebook groups or social media you're involved with, that kind of thing. Yeah. Yeah. Believe the diagnosis, not the prognosis. Yoga and meditation are amazing. Of course, yoga and meditation should be done. Of course. So what yoga and meditation does for you is bring you back into that rest and repair state. You get back in that relaxation response. When you're in fear, when you're worried about your diagnosis, you're anxious, you're sad, you're in that stressed state. You're in that fight or flight response. I'm losing some of my words here. Sorry, I get excited. So yoga and meditation and practices and modalities like that can really help you to calm your system, to bring yourself back down into that rest and repair mode. You want to be in that state. Thank you, the sympathetic state. We want to be in the parasympathetic state. We want to be down there in that relaxation response as much and as often as possible so that our bodies can heal. Because when you're in the sympathetic state and you're up there in that stress or even close to it in chronic stress, that's when your body is working on whatever that fear is rather than on healing you. Yeah. What else? What other questions?
Karla, I
Yeah.
think now's a good time to tell them about the actual documentary because
Yes.
I do believe that we can make it available for everyone who attends our support group. So tell them about it because reading the book is one thing, but watching the video, the actual documentary, will really, really be so helpful for this group.
Yeah. Yeah. The Valencia is referring to the Radical Remission docuseries that Dr. Kelly Turner produced. Valencia is in one of the episodes, and the docuseries is a 10-episode documentary outlining these lifestyle factors. So it's about an hour for each factor, and it features some different people that have embodied that particular healing lifestyle factor. Although everybody featured in the books and in the docuseries uses all 10 of these. So we will absolutely share with you the links to watch the trailer, watch the first episode, and it can be purchased on Hay House. But Valencia, if you want to do that, I'm not going to say it out loud, but you go right ahead. Oh, I guess I said it out loud.
We will have it all available for you all.
Yeah.
Just email me and I will follow up with all of you. You will love it.
Yeah, it is. It is a beautiful series, so inspiring, so hope-filled. Yeah, definitely beneficial to watch. So can I tell you my story as a radical remission survivor? So let me, where'd my menu go? I wanted to share my slides again and now I'm not finding them. hold on. Oh, maybe I'll just tell you my story without sharing slides. So I was first diagnosed in 2003 with breast cancer, and it ended up being stage 3. At the time, I was 37, and my boys were 2.5, and 5 years old. And of course, it was devastating, and I, just needed to get through it, right? So actually, let me back up and just tell you that I know now, looking back, that before cancer, before cancer was my sad era, sad standard American diet, right? Sad lifestyle, using, birth control, having a lot of stress, drinking alcohol. I had candida issues. I had, I thought I was pretty healthy, but there were definitely things under there. And just because you eat salads and vegetables doesn't mean you're extremely healthy from a nutrition perspective. But when I got that stage 3 diagnosis, it was infiltrating ductal carcinoma. And I had a mastectomy on my right breast and then had reconstruction. They did find that 7 of 20 lymph nodes were positive. So I had chemotherapy, radiation, and 5 years of tamoxifen. Mine was a hormone receptor positive, HER2 negative breast cancer. So that all took me about 9 months. And then I just wanted to get back to normal, right? I just wanted to get back to raising my sons and building my career. And I didn't really know any better, so I didn't do any better. And I went back to that normal life. And it was, again, full of a lot of stress. It was full with my big corporate job that I had, and international travel, and again, a lot of alcohol, long work days. I experienced sexual harassment in the workplace. There was started into menopause early, just all sorts of things. And in 2014, it was 11 years after my initial diagnosis. And by then, I thought I was safe. I thought there is no way, cancer's gone, woohoo, I've gotten through. But 11 years later, I got a metastatic diagnosis. I was 49 years old, and I had some symptoms in my leg. My leg was going numb, and it was falling down out from underneath me. And I saw a chiropractor who thought it was a pinched nerve, but after a couple of months, nothing was changing. So he sent me to an orthopedic guy who took an x-ray of my leg and said, nothing wrong with your leg, go to a neurologist. And the neurologist finally did an MRI. And this all took a few months for all of that to happen. And the neurologist called me to say, given your history, there are some suspicious spots all over your bones. So once again, a devastating diagnosis of stage 4 metastatic breast cancer to bone. And it was all over my spine, my pelvis, my ribs, my hips, my clavicle, etc. It was pretty much everywhere, maybe spots in the lungs, but I immediately made some lifestyle changes. I immediately took a leave of absence from that corporate job. I hired a cancer coach. I got back to my oncologist. They tried to do a biopsy of bone, couldn't quite get one. So we treated it like it was the hormone receptor positive cancer. And I will forever bless my conventional oncologist for telling me in the beginning that this is a chronic disease we can manage. So I said, great, I am going to manage the hell out of this. And that's when I did all of this, right? I'm going to do everything in my power to change everything that I need to change, because obviously I didn't make the changes previously. And I knew that I needed to change the environment in which cancer had been able to grow over that time period. So I did take conventional drugs, but I did all of these lifestyle changes too. And by that first month, that first follow-up scan, 3 months after, that cancer had been arrested. It was not changed. It was stable, and it remained stable for another 1.5 years. And I was thrilled, but unfortunately, I wasn't particularly thrilled with being fully in menopause now, which was natural. I got naturally into menopause. And by taking the AIs and different drugs, I was not pleased with my sexual health. So I wanted some help. And the E string was recommended, which is just a local solution recommended by 3 different doctors who said this will not be systemically uptaking. It'll be safe for you to do this. 4 months later, I had a liver tumor. So I popped that E string out of there and switched my care to an integrative oncologist. And I found in that oncologist a partner on this whole lifestyle change, the body, mind, and spirit, and all the healing I wanted to do. He was all in with me on nutrition, exercise, herbs and supplements. And that liver tumor was fully resolved within 6 months. And even better than that, I have seen no evidence of disease ever since then. So I really got things under control and have been able to maintain that for the last 7 years. So I am a radical remission survivor. I found Radical Remission, that book, back in 2016, and really started utilizing those lifestyle practices to help me overcome this diagnosis. Yes, thank you for, yeah, I'm thrilled. I'm so blessed. I'm so lucky. And I love to share my story, but I also love to share this research because I really feel like Dr. Turner's research made a huge difference for me in overcoming my diagnosis. So 15 minutes to go. What questions do you have for me?